fall in the arena. The twin suns of Veron Prime hung high in the orange sky, pouring golden light over the royal combat arena. Tens of thousands of alien voices filled the air, a roaring wave of excitement that shook the steel walls. Banners of the royal family fluttered in the wind, each marked with the glowing sigil of the crown. Today was not just another day of games. It was the day. The galaxy's most important leaders gathered to witness the strength of the Veron Empire. At the center of the great arena stood the Princess of Veron Prime. She was tall, elegant, her golden armor shimmering under the suns. Her presence commanded respect, her posture perfect, her expression calm. She was known across the galaxy as Princess Cirella, heir to the throne and symbol of her people's pride. Among the guests stood one figure who did not belong commander. Jacob Rourke, a human envoy sent from Earth. He wore no armor, only a dark jacket with the Earth insignia stitched on his shoulder. His sharp eyes scanned the arena, not with excitement, but with quiet calculation. He was here as a diplomat, not a warrior. But he had fought too many battles to ever truly lower his guard. The ceremony began. Alien drummers pounded out a deep rhythm, and the crowd chanted the princess's name. She raised her hand, prepared to speak the traditional blessing before the games began. And it happened. Her voice cut off mid-sentence. Her golden eyes widened. She staggered, a sudden tremor shaking her body. One hand flew to her throat, her armor plates clinking as her balance failed. The crowd's cheer fell into silence. From the shadows near the ceremonial platform, something moved, something alive. Rourke's sharp gaze caught the flicker of scales, the shimmer of green and silver. A serpent-like creature, as thick as a man's arm, slithered back into the shadows. Its fangs dripped with a faint green glow. Rourke knew that color he had. Seen it before in a battlefield lab. Neurotoxic venom. Fast, deadly. No known cure in this part of the galaxy. The princess collapsed to her knees, gasping for air. Her pale skin flushed a strange, burning blue. Royal guards rushed forward, surrounding her in a circle of polished armor. Alien medics hesitated at the edges, whispering urgently to each other. Their voices carried panic. "It's the Drezel serpent." One shouted, "No medicine will work. She has minutes less." Another cried. Rourke stepped forward. "Move." His voice was low, calm, but carried enough force to cut through the chaos. A guard blocked his path. "Human, step back. No outsider may touch the air." "She be dead before you finish arguing," Rourke said coldly. "I've seen this venom before. I know how to slow it." The guard hesitated, torn between law and desperation. The princess's body jerked violently, her breath becoming shallow. Rourke didn't wait for permission. He shoved past the guard, dropping to one knee beside the princess. The alien crowd gasped, scandal echoing through the stands. Touching the royal heir without permission was a death sentence on Veron Prime. From inside his jacket, Rourke pulled out a small black injector sleek, human-made, its surface scratched from field use. He pressed it to the princess's neck and triggered the dose. A faint hiss escaped as the serum entered her bloodstream. The princess's breathing eased, just slightly. The violent jerks of her body slowed, but her skin was still hot to the touch, the blue flush crawling up her neck toward her face. "It's buying time," Rourke muttered to himself. "But it's not enough." He remembered a mission years ago, deep in a jungle war zone on a distant human colony. A local species venom had been almost identical to this one. He had helped create a crude field serum to stall the effects. That was what he carried now, but it would only hold for minutes, maybe an hour at most. The alien medics finally moved in, scanning her with their glowing devices. One of them looked at Rourke in disbelief. "What did you give her? Her heart rate is stabilizing." "Not 4. Long, Rourke said. She needs the real cure. And you don't have it. The head guard narrowed his eyes. And you do? Rourke looked up, his voice sharp. I know where to find it. The crowd began to murmur again, confusion spreading like wildfire. Somewhere high in the royal balcony, political leaders whispered urgently, their faces tense. The entire galaxy was watching, and now a human, a stranger, was at the center of their royal crisis. The princess's eyes fluttered open for a moment. Her gaze found Rourke's unfocused, but filled with something strange trust. Or just desperation? Her lips moved, whispering a word he didn't understand. Save her, Rourke said to the guards, or watch your empire burn from the inside when word spreads that you let her die. One guard raised his weapon, furious at the threat. But another, the captain, lowered his hand. What do you need? Rourke rose to his feet, his voice steady. A transport. The plant that can counter this venom grows only in one place, the Forbidden Marsh. The captain's eyes darkened. No one goes there. Those who enter never return. Rourke glanced back at the princess, her breathing shallow again. Then I guess I'm no one. Before the captain could answer, Rourke knelt again, brushing the princess's hair gently away from her face. Hang on, he said quietly, almost like a promise. I'm not losing you. The alien suns burned brighter overhead, but to Rourke, the arena felt colder. He could feel it, the weight of 100 alien eyes watching, judging, waiting to see if the human would succeed, or if both he and the princess would vanish into the dark forever. Asterisked the human's medicine, the roar of the arena had turned into a low, uneasy hum. Thousands of alien eyes followed Rourke as he stood beside the medics, his dark jacket dusted with sand from the arena floor. The princess lay motionless on the polished stone platform, her chest rising and falling in shallow breaths. Every second mattered. Rourke checked the injector in his hand. Only one dose left. If her condition dropped again before he found the real cure, she would be gone. The serum he used was a human design, never tested on Veron physiology before today. He had taken a risk, and the fact she was still alive was proof it had worked. For now, the captain of the Royal Guard stepped closer, his voice hard. Human, your actions today have already broken laws that carry death sentences. If you fail, Rourke cut him off. If I fail, you won't have to execute me. She be dead, and your empire will lose its heir. I'm the only one here with a chance to keep her breathing. So either help me or get out of my way. The guard's jaw tightened. He didn't like it, but he knew Rourke was right. Two alien medics hovered their scanners over the princess, frowning at the results. One whispered to the other in their own language, but Rourke caught the words venom migration. He stepped forward. It's moving toward her brain. Once it reaches the neural core, nothing will save her. Then what is your cure? The captain demanded. A plant, Rourke said. The crimson neurith. Its enzymes break down neurotoxin faster than any synthetic medicine. You crush the petals, mix with alkaline fluid, and inject directly into the bloodstream. The medics exchanged glances. That plant hasn't been harvested in over a century. It only grows in the Forbidden Marsh. You would never make it back. Alive, Rourke looked at the princess again. Her face was pale, lips tinted blue, but her fingers twitched as if fighting to hold on. Then I guess I don't have much choice. The captain gave a sharp signal, and 2 guards brought forward a small anti-grav med pod. The princess was lifted gently into it, her body surrounded by a soft containment field to slow the spread of the poison. Rourke moved to take the pods. Control handles, but the captain blocked him. You are not trusted, the guard said. One of our own will carry her. Rourke's eyes hardened. If I'm not the one monitoring her vitals, she could die halfway there without anyone noticing. I built this serum. I know its limits. You don't. The captain hesitated, clearly torn. At last, he stepped aside. You have 3 hours, human. If you do not return, we close the gates. Then keep them open, Rourke said, gripping the pod's controls. I'll be back. They moved quickly through the inner gates, past towering walls lined with alien warriors. A slim transport craft waited on the landing platform. Its design was strange to human eyes' sleek curves, pale metal that shimmered like liquid. The pilot glanced at Rourke and the medpod, his expression a mix of suspicion and curiosity. Captain leaned in close before Rourke ordered, "If you betray us, know this, you will not make it out of the marsh alive." Rourke gave a humorless smile. "I'm counting on making it back alive. That's all that matters." The transport skimmed over the golden dunes outside the city, leaving the roar of the arena far behind. In the pod, the princess stirred faintly, her lips moving as if speaking in a dream. Rourke bent down. "What was that?" he asked quietly. Her eyes fluttered open for a second, locking onto his face. "Don't trust them," she whispered, before. He could ask what she meant. She slipped back into unconsciousness. Rourke sat back, mind racing. Was she warning him about her own guards? About the royal court? Or something waiting in the marsh? An hour later, the golden sands gave way to the jagged, mist-covered swamps of the forbidden marsh. The air turned heavy, filled with the sound of distant, unearthly calls. Black water reflected the dying light of the suns, and twisted trees loomed like skeletal giants. The pilot stopped at the marsh's edge. "This is as far as I go. The beasts here, they smell fear." Rourke locked the medpod's portable gravlift into place. "Then let's hope they can't smell me." The pilot gave a dark chuckle. "They can." Rourke stepped into the marsh, boots sinking slightly into wet ground. Strange ripples moved across the water's surface. The mist swirled thick around him, swallowing the world in pale shadows. He kept one hand on the pod's controls, the other on the compact rifle slung across his back. Somewhere ahead, a low growl rumbled through the mist deep, slow, and heavy. The pod's sensors blinked a warning. Large life form detected 20 meters. Rourke froze. His instincts screamed at him to move, but his training kept him still. The growl came again, closer now, accompanied by a faint splash dot from the fog. 2 massive, glowing eyes appeared, each the size of his fist. Then the shape behind them emerged, a creature with 6 legs, armored plates across its back, and a mouth lined with jagged teeth. It lowered its head. Nostrils flaring. The medpod beeped urgently vital signs. Critical. The princess's heart rate was dropping fast. Rourke tightened his grip on the rifle. He had seconds to act, seconds before either the creature or the poison finished what the serpent had started. Asterisk, the dangerous journey, the creature's hot breath rolled over Rourke like steam from a furnace. Its eyes glowed a sickly yellow in the mist fixed on him and the medpod floating at his side. Its claws dug into the wet ground with a slow, deliberate scrape, each step sinking deep into the mud. Rourke didn't raise his rifle. Not yet. Instead, he let it hang loose at his side. Quick moves might trigger the beast's attack. He remembered something an alien tracker had told him years ago on another world. In the marsh, you don't fight first, you convince the marsh you belong. The beast leaned lower, nostrils flaring as it sniffed the princess's scent. A deep growl rolled from its chest, like the sound of distant thunder. "Easy," Rourke muttered under his breath, eyes locked on the creature. "She's not your prey." Then, to his shock, a weak voice came from the medpod. "Do not shoot." Rourke looked down. The princess's eyes were half open, her lips trembling. She spoke in her native tongue, a language Rourke didn't know, but the beast reacted instantly. Its growl faded into a low rumble. It tilted its head, almost as if listening. The princess whispered again, her voice breaking. The beast stepped back, its heavy body sinking into the mist until only its glowing eyes remained. Then, slowly, those two vanished. Rourke exhaled a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "I'll take it you've met before." The princess's eyelids fluttered. "Royal blood protector," she whispered, before slipping back into unconsciousness. With the path clear, Rourke pushed forward through the marsh. The air was thick and damp, every sound muffled by the fog. Shapes moved in the distance, sometimes just shadows, sometimes tall, thin figures watching from between the twisted trees. The deeper he went, the more the ground trembled beneath his boots. The marsh wasn't silent anymore. It breathed. Water bubbled in dark pools, sending up bursts of foul-smelling gas. Large insects, their wings glistening like shards of glass, darted between branches. Then his visor pinged a faint signal ahead. He checked the display. High bioenergy concentration. The crimson myrrh plant. His pace quickened. The mist grew brighter in that direction, the air warmer. Soon he broke into a clearing where the ground was carpeted in glowing red blossoms. The petals shimmered like they were dusted with stars. He knelt, opening a sealed pouch from his belt. "This is it," he muttered. "One shot at saving you." But as he reached for the first bloom, a voice rang out through the mist. "Step away from the plant, human." Rourke froze, his hand still hovering over the petals. 4 figures emerged from the fog toll, armored and moving with the precision of trained killers. Their armor was painted with the royal crest, but blackened at the edges a mark Rourke had learned meant disavowed. Assassins. One of them leveled a spear-like weapon at the med pod. "The air dies here. Orders from above." Rourke's mind raced. The princess had warned him not to trust them. And now he knew why. This wasn't a random serpent attack. It was an execution disguised as an accident. He rose slowly, hands half raised. "You take one step toward her, and I'll make sure none of you leave this swamp." The leader laughed, a cold, sharp sound. "You're far from your metal cities, human. Out here, the marsh swallows bodies whole." Rourke glanced at the glowing flowers, at the soft rise and fall of the princess's chest in the pod. He had 2 problems: save her and survive them. Then an idea formed, reckless, dangerous, but pure Rourke. He took a slow step back, closer to the cluster of crimson myrrh blooms. "You ever wonder why nobody harvests this plant anymore?" he asked. The assassins hesitated. Rourke smirked. "Because it attracts the marsh's largest predator, and it's already watching us." As if on cue, a ripple spread through the water at the edge of the clearing. The 6-legged beast from before emerged silently from the fog, its glowing eyes fixed on the intruders. Rourke bent, plucked the first crimson blossom, and slipped it into his pouch. "Guess it decided I belong here after all." The beast roared, the sound shaking the trees, and charged not at Rourke, but at the assassins. The beast and the bargain. The clearing erupted into chaos. The assassins scattered, their blackened armor flashing in the mist as the beast lunged, jaws snapping like steel traps. One assassin was swept aside by a massive claw, vanishing into the swamp with a splash. Another tried to stab at its neck, but was thrown into a tree with bone-cracking force. Rourke didn't waste the distraction. He filled his pouch with as many crimson myrrh petals as he could, their glow staining his gloves red. The princess's med pod beeped frantically. Her heartbeat was slowing. He had minutes at best. He turned to leave, but the beast's head swung toward him, yellow eyes narrowing. It stepped between him and the way out, its chest rising and falling in slow, deliberate breaths. Rourke tightened his grip on the med pod. "Controls, we're not enemies," he said quietly. I'm here for her." From inside the pod came a weak cough. The princess's eyes flickered open, just enough to focus on the beast. Her lips moved, speaking words in that strange royal tongue. The beast stilled, tilting its head to listen. The remaining assassins froze, watching in disbelief. "She's commanding it," one whispered. The beast growled, but it wasn't the deep threat from before. It was something softer, almost protective. Slowly, it lowered its head until its snout was level with the med-pod. The princess whispered again. This time, she switched to the human tongue, her voice barely a breath. "Royal protector, sworn to my bloodline. It will not harm us." Rourke raised an eyebrow. "Then tell it to clear the path." She shook her head weakly. "It will help you, but only if you promise." "Promise what?" Her eyes locked on his, sharp despite the fever. "That you will bring me back alive and defend the marsh from those who would take it." Rourke glanced at the glowing plants around them. The crimson Mirith could save lives, not just hers, but if the marsh was overrun by greed, it could be destroyed forever. He understood. "I promise," he said, voice steady. "On my life." The beast's eyes seemed to brighten, and it stepped aside. Then, to Rourke's surprise, it knelt, lowering its massive armored back. The princess whispered, "It offers to carry us, faster than you can run." Rourke didn't hesitate. He secured the med-pod against the beast's broad back, the petals safe in his pouch. Climbing up, he gripped one of the armored ridges. The beast rose, towering above the swamp, and with a deep roar, it charged into the mist. They raced through the marsh at incredible speed. Trees blurred past, water splashed high on both sides. The beast moved with a strange mix of power and silence, its heavy steps barely disturbing the surface beneath. But the marsh wasn't done testing them. Ahead, the path narrowed into a channel of black water, blocked by massive root structures. From beneath the surface, shapes began to rise, long, eel-like predators with razor fins. The beast didn't slow. Instead, it leapt, clearing the water in a single bound and landing on the other side with a thunderous crash. Rourke held tight, the med-pod humming under his arm. The princess stirred, looking up at him. "You keep your word, human. The stars will remember this." Rourke gave her a tight smile. "First, let's make sure you live to tell them." At last, the swamp's mist thinned, revealing the outer dunes. The palace spires glittered in the distance, but smoke now drifted above them, black and rising fast. Rourke's stomach tightened. Something's wrong. The beast slowed as they reached the marsh's edge. The princess's breathing was shallow again, the beeping from the med-pod turning urgent. The petals had to be prepared immediately, or they would lose their potency. Princess touched his arm, her voice barely audible. "They will try to stop you." "I know," Rourke said, eyes fixed on the palace. "Let them try." The return to the stars. The heat shimmered on the dunes as the hum of hoverbikes grew louder. From the haze, 8 riders appeared, sleek machines kicking up trails of sand. Their armor bore the royal crest, but like the assassins in the marsh, it was blackened at the edges. The princess's warning echoed in Rourke's head. Don't trust them. He tightened his grip on the med-pod, feeling the faint, weak pulse of the princess inside. The petals in his pouch were still glowing, but not as bright, already losing potency. If he didn't reach the palace within minutes, even the miracle plant would fail. The lead rider pulled ahead, raising a voice amplifier. "Human, leave the air. The marsh has claimed her." Rourke's jaw clenched. She's not claimed by anyone. The riders spread out, forming a crescent around him and the beast. The animal growled low, a sound that made the sand tremble. Lead rider's visor tilted. "Step aside, and you can walk away. Refuse, and you'll die here. Rourke slid the rifle from his back in one smooth motion. You first. The first volley came from the rider's plasma bolts tearing through the air. The beast roared, shifting sideways to shield the medpod with its armored flank. Rourke dropped to one knee, returning fire with precise, short bursts. One bike exploded in a plume of sand and smoke. That other rider closed in, energy blade glowing. Rourke ducked, swung the rifle like a club, and sent the attacker crashing into the sand. The beast lunged forward, scattering the others with a swipe of its massive claw. But every moment spent fighting was another moment the princess's heartbeat weakened. Rourke knew he couldn't waste time. He switched tactics. We're going through. He shouted to the beast. The creature responded instantly, surging forward in a blur of power. Sand erupted behind them as they tore across the dunes, breaking through the line of riders. Two gave chase, but the beast's speed left them shrinking in the distance. The palace walls grew larger, towering above the city's skyline. But something was wrong. Gates closed, guards on the battlements aiming weapons down at the approach. Rourke slowed the beast, scanning the scene. These weren't the same soldiers from the arena. Their armor was darker, the sigils scratched away. Coup forces. Whoever had sent the assassins now controlled the gates. The captain of the gate called out, "Drop your weapons, human, and leave the girl. The throne is no longer hers." Rourke didn't even slow. "Open those gates, or I open you." Energy bolts rained down from above, but the beast charged forward, tail smashing into the gate with bone-rattling force. Metal screamed, hinges burst, and the entrance collapsed inward. Inside, the palace halls were chaos servants running, loyal guards fighting rebels. Rourke leapt from the beast's back, medpod in his arms, and sprinted toward the royal infirmary. The beast stayed behind, roaring at intruders and clearing the way like a living battering ram. He burst into the infirmary to find it empty, abandoned in the confusion. Rourke slammed the pod down on a table, ripping open his pouch of petals. They were dim now, their glow flickering. He worked fast, crushing the petals, mixing them with alkaline fluid from his kit, loading the solution into a fresh injector. His hands didn't shake. They never did in the field. But in his chest, his heart pounded like war drums. The princess's breathing was barely there. Her skin was ice cold. He knelt beside her, pressing the injector to her neck. "Come on." "Your Highness? Don't quit now." Just as he pushed the plunger, the infirmary doors slammed open. Armed rebels poured in, weapons raised. "Step away from her." Their leader shouted. Rourke didn't move. Too late. "She's already coming back," the leader sneered. "Then you'll die with her." Asterisk, the act that stunned the stars. The rebels in the infirmary froze for a heartbeat, their weapons still, aimed at the human. The air was tense, heavy with the sound of the princess's slow, steady breathing. Then she sat up. Her golden eyes, once clouded by venom, now burned with clarity and something sharper rage. Her voice, still weak but edged with steel, cut through the room. "Lower your weapons." The rebel leader hesitated, his sneer faltering. "You shouldn't even be alive." "That," she said, "is your first mistake." Rourke stepped forward, placing himself between her and the rebels. "You heard her. Drop them." The leader laughed harshly. "A human thinks he can command us?" Rourke's tone was calm but deadly. "I don't care what you are. I've buried better fighters than you on worlds you've never heard of." The rebels shifted uneasily. Behind Rourke, the princess slid off the bed, standing on her own. She was pale, but her posture was unshaken. She raised her hand, and a deep, rumbling sound filled the air. The beast stepped into the doorway. Massive frame filled the entrance, claws scraping the stone floor, eyes locked on the rebels. The leader's bravado cracked. "Impossible." It never leaves the marsh. It does, the princess said coldly, for those it swears to protect. The rebels hesitated only a moment longer before the beast roared, the sound shaking the sound. Walls, panic broke them. They dropped their weapons and fled, their boots clanging down the palace corridors. The princess turned to Rourke. You have saved my life and my crown. Rourke shook his head. I just kept my promise. She stepped closer, her voice carrying enough strength to reach the guards and servants gathering outside the infirmary. From this day forward, humanity is under my royal protection. Any hand raised against them will answer to me. A wave of shocked whispers spread through the crowd. For centuries, humans had been considered outsiders, barely tolerated in the higher circles of galactic politics. Now, in front of witnesses, the heir to one of the most powerful empires had claimed them as her own. Hours later, in the throne hall, the official proclamation was made. The princess sat on the royal seat, the beast lying like a silent sentinel at her side. Rourke stood nearby, arms crossed, watching the galaxy's elite struggle to mask their discomfort. One alien diplomat leaned to another, whispering, "A single human changed the fate of an empire." The other replied, "And if the stars are unlucky, he's just getting started." The princess's voice rang clear across the chamber. "Commander Rourke, humanity is no longer alone in the galaxy. You will be my voice, my shield, and my friend." Rourke gave a faint smile. "Just keep me out of these royal speeches." The court laughed nervously, unsure if it was a joke. The palace, the suns dipped low, painting the sky in gold and violet. Somewhere far away, in the dark corners of the galaxy, the news of the day's events spread like wildfire. How a human had defied royal law, braved the forbidden marsh, fought assassins, and returned with the heir alive. The galaxy would remember it not just as the day a princess was saved, but the day a single act from a human stunned the stars. Asterisk.